The day that changed Earth's destiny began like any other morning at the United Nations headquarters in New York. The massive building stood tall against the clear blue sky, its windows reflecting the early morning sunlight. Inside, hundreds of delegates from around the world sat in tense silence, their eyes fixed on the large screen at the front of the General Assembly Hall. The alien ship had appeared 3 days ago, positioning itself in a steady orbit above Earth. Its sudden arrival had sent waves of panic through the human population, but the initial fear had given way to cautious curiosity when the aliens transmitted their first message: "We come to evaluate." Now, as the world watched, the first alien ambassador prepared to address the United Nations. Security teams stood at attention, their weapons ready but lowered. A gesture of peace that felt both necessary and futile against beings capable of crossing the stars. The alien ambassador, who called himself Gray, appeared suddenly on the stage in a flash of blue light. His arrival caused a collective gasp from the assembled delegates. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, his silvery skin seeming to shimmer under the bright lights of the assembly hall. His four-fingered hands were clasped in front of him, and his large, dark eyes surveyed the room with what looked like mild amusement. "Representatives of Earth," Gray spoke, his voice carrying a metallic undertone that made it sound both fascinating and slightly unnerving. "I come before you as a member of the Galactic Council, tasked with evaluating your species for potential inclusion in our interstellar community." The UN Secretary-General stepped forward, his voice steady despite the historical weight of the moment. "We welcome you to Earth, Ambassador Gray. We hope this meeting marks the beginning of peaceful cooperation between our peoples." Gray's expression shifted into what humans would later learn was the alien equivalent of a condescending smile. "Peaceful cooperation requires equal partners," he said, his words carefully measured. "And I must be honest, your civilization falls far short of our standards." A murmur of discontent rippled through the assembly. Gray continued, seemingly oblivious to the reaction his words had caused. He raised his hand, and a holographic display appeared beside him, showing images of Earth's military capabilities: tanks, fighter jets, nuclear missiles, and naval vessels. "Your most advanced weapon systems are—" He paused, searching for the right word. "Quaint. These nuclear devices you're so proud of. They wouldn't even scratch the paint on our smallest scout ships. Your most powerful explosives are what our children use in science experiments." The delegates watched in growing anger as Gray systematically dismissed humanity's achievements. He showed recordings of their ships easily deflecting test missiles fired by Earth's combined military forces, tests that had been conducted without humanity's knowledge or consent. "Your species is centuries behind true military advancement," Gray declared, his metallic voice echoing through the chamber. "Your entire planetary defense system could be disabled by a single Galactic Council maintenance vessel." In the audience, military leaders from various nations exchanged knowing looks. They had suspected their weapons might be ineffective against such advanced technology, but hearing it confirmed so bluntly was different. Yet among some of the scientific advisors present, there was a glimmer of something else. Not despair, but calculation. Dr. Roberts, sitting quietly in the back of the hall, made careful notes on her tablet. Each time Gray mentioned their defensive capabilities, each time he spoke of their energy systems, she documented it. While others saw humiliation in his words, she saw valuable intelligence. As the session ended, Gray delivered his final assessment. Earth will be classified as a Level 2 civilization, primitive but with potential. We will return in one standard galactic year to reassess your progress. With another flash of blue light, he vanished, leaving behind a stunned assembly and a planet that had just received its first taste of galactic politics. What the ambassador didn't realize was that his dismissive attitude had awakened something in humanity, not just anger or fear, but a fierce determination to prove him wrong. In the coming months, that determination would fuel the greatest technological leap in human history and teach the galaxy a lesson about underestimating the resourcefulness of a species that had clawed its way up from the Stone Age to the Space Age in mere millennia. 3 months after Ambassador Gray's visit, Earth's early warning systems detected multiple objects entering the solar system. The objects moved at impossible speeds, slowing only as they approached Mars' orbit. Within hours, the truth became clear. It was the Dominion fleet, the military arm of the Galactic Council, and they had arrived far earlier than promised. Commander Jack Thompson stood at the window of his office in the Global Defense Initiative headquarters, watching the alien ships appear in the sky like new stars. His weathered face reflected in the glass as darkness fell over Washington, D.C., not from the setting sun, but from the massive ships now positioning themselves above every major city on Earth. "Sir," his assistant called from the doorway, "we're receiving transmission from the lead vessel." Thompson turned away from the window, his expression grim but determined. The large screen on his office wall flickered to life, showing a different alien than Gray. This one had darker skin, almost metallic black, and eyes that glowed with a faint red light. "People of Earth," the alien commander spoke, his voice deeper and harsher than Gray's had been. "I am Fleet Commander Stark of the Dominion Forces. Your planet has been classified as a resource-rich, technologically inferior world. You have 2 Earth days to surrender control of your mineral deposits, water resources, and atmospheric conversion rights to the Galactic Council." Thompson's fists clenched at his sides. "And if we refuse?" The alien's expression didn't change, but his eyes glowed brighter. "Then we will take them by force. Your primitive weapons cannot harm us. Resistance would only result in unnecessary casualties among your population." As if to demonstrate their power, the alien ships simultaneously activated their energy fields. The sky lit up with a web of purple energy connecting the vessels, forming a containment grid around Earth. The display of technological superiority was meant to crush any thought of resistance. In the streets below, people watched in terror as the alien ship's shadows turned day into twilight. Emergency services were overwhelmed with panic calls, and military bases worldwide went into high alert. Global stock markets crashed within minutes as the reality of the situation sank in. But in secure facilities around the world, a different reaction was taking place. Scientists and military personnel who had been preparing for this possibility since Gray's visit were now activating protocols that had seemed paranoid just months ago. In his office, Thompson opened a secure channel to various hidden facilities around the globe. Dr. Roberts' face appeared on one of the screens, her expression focused and alert despite the late hour at her location. "They're earlier than we expected," Thompson said, running a hand through his gray hair. "How close are we?" "The basic systems are ready," she replied, her voice steady. "We've been running simulations since their ships entered the solar system. Their energy shield network actually makes our job easier. It's like they're setting up a giant lens for us." Thompson nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope. While the aliens saw their energy grid as a display of power, Earth scientists saw it as an opportunity. Sometimes the best weapon wasn't the most advanced. It was the one your enemy never saw coming. "Begin evacuation of surface facilities," Thompson ordered. "Move all essential personnel to the underground bases. Let them think we're cowering in fear." Around the world, humanity began its carefully choreographed dance of apparent submission. Military forces made a show of standing down. Government leaders called emergency sessions, publicly debating surrender terms. It all looked like exactly what the aliens expected from a primitive species faced with superior technology. But deep beneath the Earth's surface, in hardened bunkers and secret facilities, humanity was preparing its response. Engineers adjusted massive solar arrays under the cover of darkness. Satellite control centers quietly modified their systems' positions. The International Space Station, appearing to drift harmlessly above, was silently charging its primary systems. The aliens had made a crucial mistake. They had assumed that humanity's primitive nature meant they would respond primitively. They never considered that being primitive might mean being unpredictable, or that a species that had survived countless natural disasters might have learned to turn nature itself into a weapon. In less than 48 hours, they would learn just how costly that mistake would be. Deep beneath the Nevada desert, The real war preparation was taking place. Project Helios, hidden inside an old nuclear testing facility, spread through underground tunnels and chambers that stretched for miles. The facility hummed with activity as scientists and engineers worked around the clock, knowing they were humanity's best hope for survival. Dr. Amy Roberts stood in the main control room, surrounded by dozens of screens showing data from solar monitoring stations worldwide. Her graying hair was tied back messily, and dark circles under her eyes showed she hadn't slept in days. But there was a fire in her eyes that kept her team motivated. "Show me the latest simulation results," she called out to her team. The main screen lit up with a complex diagram showing Earth's position relative to the Sun, with thousands of points of light representing their modified satellite network. The young engineer at the main console, Tom Wilson, pulled up the data. "We've managed to increase the energy capture efficiency to 89%. The new satellite positions will give us coverage of nearly all alien ships in low Earth orbit." Dr. Roberts nodded, studying the numbers carefully. Project Helios had been her life's work for the past 15 years. What had started as research into clean energy had evolved into something far more ambitious when the first hints of alien life were detected by deep space telescopes. "People called us crazy," she said, more to herself than to her team. "They said we were wasting resources trying to build a solar energy weapon. What could mirrors and lenses do against advanced alien technology?" they asked. The room fell silent as she walked to the massive window overlooking the testing chamber below. Through the reinforced glass, they could see the prototype, a scaled-down version of their planetary defense system. It looked deceptively simple, a series of mirrors and lenses arranged in a complex pattern, all controlled by quantum computers. "The Sun," Dr. Roberts continued, turning to face the emergency council that had gathered in the control room, "produces more energy in a single second than humanity has used in its entire history. We don't need to create energy. We just need to redirect it." One of the military officers stepped forward, his uniform showing the marks of a general. "Explain it to us one more time, Doctor. How exactly will this work against their shields?" Dr. Roberts pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed their solar collection system in detail. Their shields are designed to deflect and absorb energy weapons, lasers, nuclear blasts, all the things they expect us to throw at them. But they're not designed to handle the raw, focused power of a star. She manipulated the display, showing how their satellite network would function. "We've spent years positioning satellites that everyone thought were for communications or weather monitoring. Each one is actually part of a massive solar energy collection grid. When activated, they'll work together with ground-based arrays to capture, focus, and redirect solar energy." The prototype in the chamber below suddenly activated. Beams of concentrated sunlight focused on a test target, and within seconds, the reinforced metal plate began to glow red, then white, before melting completely. "That," Dr. Roberts said with a grim smile, "was less than 1% of our full capability." The council members watched in stunned silence as the molten metal dripped to the chamber floor. One of them finally spoke up. "Why didn't we reveal this capability when they first arrived?" "Because," Commander Thompson said from the doorway, having arrived during the demonstration, "you never show your enemy your full capabilities until you have to. The aliens think they know everything about us. Their arrogance is our advantage." Dr. Roberts turned back to her team. "Status report on the global network." "All systems are green," Tom responded. "Ground stations are masked by their civilian power generation functions. Orbital arrays are in position, disguised as standard satellites. The IS control systems are online but dormant." Commander Thompson walked to stand beside Dr. Roberts at the window. "How long until we're ready?" She checked the final calculations on her tablet. "The systems are ready now. We're just waiting for the right moment. When the Sun's position and their shield grid alignment are optimal. We'll only get one chance at this." Below them, the prototype cooled down, leaving a pool of molten metal as testament to humanity's ingenuity. Soon, The aliens would learn that sometimes the most powerful weapons aren't the most advanced. They're the ones that use nature itself as their ammunition. The next 24 hours were crucial for humanity's survival plan. While the alien fleet loomed overhead, casting their threatening shadows across Earth's cities, thousands of people worked in secret to prepare for the most ambitious defensive operation in human history. In the International Space Station, which slowly orbited above Earth like an innocent research facility, Commander Lisa Wood received encrypted instructions from ground control. Her small crew of 6 had been specially trained for this moment, though to the outside world, they appeared to be regular station maintenance workers. "Begin power-up sequence," she ordered, her voice steady despite the tension. "Keep all systems at minimal power. We don't want them detecting anything unusual." The station's true purpose was far from its public image as a scientific research platform. Hidden beneath its ordinary exterior panels were thousands of specially designed mirrors and energy-focusing arrays, all connected to what appeared to be standard solar panels. Down on Earth, in the Nevada Control Center, Dr. Roberts coordinated with ground stations worldwide. Massive solar farms in deserts across the globe, in the Sahara, the Australian outback, the Arabian Desert, and the American Southwest, subtly adjusted their positions. To any observer, it looked like routine maintenance. "Status report," she called out to her team. Tom Wilson checked his monitors. "Australia reports ready. Sahara arrays aligned. Arabian stations confirm position. American Southwest completing final adjustments." He paused, looking at another screen. "Ma'am, the aliens are scanning our power plants and solar installations." Dr. Roberts smiled slightly. "Let them look. They'll only see what they expect to see. Primitive solar power collection for civilian use." In orbit, the alien ships continued their surveillance. Their massive fleet had arranged itself in a perfect defensive grid, their energy shields linking together to form what they believed was an impenetrable barrier. They noticed the movements of Earth's satellites, but dismissed them as desperate attempts to maintain communication networks. Commander Thompson, watching from the underground command center, received reports from military bases worldwide. "All non-essential personnel evacuated to bunkers," his assistant reported. "Surface military forces are maintaining their stand-down posture as ordered." "Any response from the aliens to our apparent submission?" Thompson asked. "They're getting impatient," his assistant replied. "They've sent 3 more demands for our surrender in the last hour." Thompson checked his watch. "They needed another 6 hours for optimal sun position. Send them a message. Tell them our world leaders are still debating their terms. Add some political squabbling to make it convincing." In space, Commander Wood and her crew continued their careful preparations. They had to time everything perfectly. The ISS's orbit would need to align exactly with the ground-based arrays and the sun's position for maximum effect. "Power systems at 40% and holding," her engineer reported. "Disguised as standard station operations. No signs they've detected anything unusual." Wood nodded, watching the alien ships through the station's windows. "They're so confident in their superiority, they don't even consider us a threat. Their ships are positioned perfectly, exactly where we need them to be." Back in Nevada, Dr. Roberts reviewed the final simulations. Each ground station had reported successful tests of their focusing arrays. The satellite network was perfectly aligned. Everything was ready, just waiting for the right moment. "This isn't just about saving Earth," she told her team during a brief rest period. "This is about showing the galaxy that being technologically advanced doesn't always mean being smarter. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective." As the hours ticked by, humanity's trap was nearly ready to spring. The aliens, watching from their ships, saw exactly what they expected to see: a primitive civilization preparing to surrender. They never thought to question why Earth's leaders were taking so long to respond, or why so many solar arrays were going through routine maintenance at the same time. They had forgotten one of the most important lessons in military history: never underestimate an enemy fighting for survival. In just a few hours, they would learn this lesson the hard way. Dawn broke over the Nevada desert as humanity prepared for its most decisive moment. The alien ships hung in the sky like dark clouds, their massive forms blocking out the rising sun. In the command center deep underground, Commander Thompson watched the final countdown on the main screen. "All stations, report status," he ordered, his voice echoing through the global communication network. "Australian arrays ready. Sahara station standing by. Arabian arrays in position. American Southwest ready. Orbital arrays aligned. ISS in optimal position." Dr. Roberts stood beside him, her tablet showing real-time data from all collection points. "Solar activity is perfect," she reported. "We couldn't ask for better conditions." Above Earth, the Dominion fleet began powering up their weapons. Their patience had run out. Fleet Commander Stark's voice boomed through all Earth's communication channels. "Your time for peaceful surrender has ended. We will now take what we require by force." Commander Thompson looked at Dr. Roberts. "Are we ready?" She nodded, her expression determined. "All systems are green. Waiting for your command." Thompson took a deep breath. Everything humanity had worked for came down to this moment. "Send the signal." Initialized Project Helios. Dr. Roberts pressed her hand against the main control panel's biometric scanner. Project Helios initialization sequence activated. "All stations, commence power collection on my mark." She watched as the sun's position reached the perfect angle. Mark. Across the globe, thousands of solar arrays simultaneously adjusted their positions. What had appeared to be simple power collection panels revealed their true nature, their surfaces splitting and shifting to create precise focusing arrays. In orbit, hundreds of satellites emerged from their dormant state, their hidden mirrors deploying in perfect synchronization. The aliens noticed the movement. "Earth forces are deploying some kind of solar collection grid," one of their officers reported to Stark. "Primitive technology. No threat to our shields." Stark watched with mild amusement. "Let them try their little tricks. Our shields can withstand any weapon they possess." On the ISS, Commander Wood gave the final command. "Activate primary control matrix. Begin energy focusing sequence." The space station's outer panels opened like a blooming flower, revealing the massive focusing array hidden beneath. It would serve as the final lens, the keystone of humanity's solar weapon. In the Nevada Command Center, Dr. Roberts watched the energy readings climb. Power collection at 40%, 60%, 80%. The alien ship's sensors detected the growing energy buildup. For the first time, uncertainty crept into their communications. "Sir, the energy readings are exceeding expected parameters." "Power collection at maximum," Dr. Roberts announced. "All stations, initiate focusing sequence." Commander Thompson stood straight, his voice firm. "Fire." In that moment, humanity transformed its solar energy collection system into the most powerful weapon the galaxy had ever seen. The collected solar energy, focused through the global array network, struck the alien ship's shield grid like the fist of an angry god. The aliens' first sign that something was terribly wrong came when their shield grid began to glow bright orange. The focused solar energy, concentrated through hundreds of perfectly aligned collection points, struck their defenses with the intensity of a small star. "Shields failing," the alien officers reported in panic. Temperature exceeding critical levels. Fleet Commander Stark watched in horror as his ship's supposedly impenetrable defenses began to melt under the sustained solar assault. Impossible. They're using their star as a weapon. In the command center, Thompson and Roberts watched the sensor readings with grim satisfaction. The alien ship's shields were designed to defend against lasers, plasma weapons, and nuclear blasts, but they had never been designed to withstand the raw, focused power of a star. "Continue full power," Thompson ordered. "Don't let up." The battle that would change the galaxy's view of humanity forever had begun, and Earth's star itself was leading the charge. The aliens' mighty ships, which had once seemed invincible, now glowed like metal in a furnace. The focused solar energy from Project Helios continued to pour through Earth's atmosphere, turning the morning sky into a spectacular light show of concentrated solar power. In the Nevada Command Center, Dr. Roberts monitored the energy readings with intense focus. "Primary target shields failing," she announced, her voice tight with concentration. "Temperature readings are off the scale." Through the global communication network, reports flooded in from observation posts worldwide. The alien ships' outer hulls had begun to change color, shifting from their natural metallic black to cherry red, then to blinding white, as the concentrated solar energy overwhelmed their defenses. "Sir," Tom Wilson called out from his station, "the alien fleet is attempting to reposition. They're trying to break formation." Commander Thompson leaned forward, watching the tactical display. "They can't," he said with grim satisfaction. "Their shield grid locked them in position. If any ship moves, it creates a gap in their defenses." On the bridge of the Dominion flagship, Fleet Commander Stark was experiencing true fear for the first time in his long military career. Warning signals blared from every console as his mighty vessel's systems began to fail under the relentless solar assault. "How?" he demanded, watching as smaller ships in his fleet began to break apart under the intense heat. "How can they do this? They're primitive." His science officer, desperately working at his station, finally understood. "Sir, they're not creating energy. They're redirecting it. Their entire planet's infrastructure, everything we dismissed as primitive solar collection technology, it's all part of a weapons system." In orbit, Commander Wood and her ISS crew maintained their position, ensuring the station's focusing array stayed perfectly aligned. Through their reinforced windows, they could see the alien ships beginning to break apart. "Hull integrity of enemy vessels dropping rapidly," Wood reported to ground control. "We're seeing structural failures across their entire fleet." Ambassador Gray, who had been watching from a safe distance, could hardly believe his eyes. The species he had dismissed as primitive was wielding the power of their star with devastating precision. His earlier assessment of humanity now seemed not just wrong, but dangerously naive. Back in the Nevada facility, Dr. Roberts noticed something on her readings. The enemy ships are trying to power up their emergency jump drives. They're attempting to escape. But the aliens had waited too long. Their ships, designed to withstand the harshest conditions in space, were no match for the focused fury of a star. One by one, their mighty vessels began to break apart. Some managed to activate their emergency systems and disappear into hyperspace, trailing debris and molten metal. Others weren't so fortunate. "Enemy fleet at 40% strength and falling," Thompson announced, reading the tactical display. "They're beginning a full retreat." On the Dominion flagship, which was now barely holding together, Fleet Commander Stark gave his final order. "Send the signal. Full retreat. Get our surviving ships out of this system immediately." The message that went out to the Galactic Council was brief but clear. "Earth possesses star-level weapons technology. Retreat imperative. Do not underestimate." As the surviving alien ships fled Earth's orbit, humanity watched in amazement as their solar weapons system had turned the tide of what should have been an impossible battle. What the aliens had dismissed as primitive solar collection technology had become their downfall. Dr. Roberts finally allowed herself to relax slightly, looking at the sensor readings that showed the remaining alien ships jumping to hyperspace. "Sometimes," she said to no one in particular, "the most powerful weapon isn't the most advanced. It's the one that uses nature itself." Commander Thompson nodded, watching the last alien ship disappear from their screens. "They thought we were primitive because we hadn't mastered the stars," he said. "They never realized we had learned something far more important, how to use what we already had." The battle was over. Earth's sun, which had given life to humanity since its beginning, had now also become its defender. The aliens had learned a costly lesson. Never underestimate a species that could turn its own star into a weapon. 1 month after the battle that became known as the Solar Defense, Earth was a very different place. The skies were clear of alien ships, but humanity's perspective had forever changed. They were no longer alone in the universe, and more importantly, they were no longer defenseless. In the Global Defense Initiative headquarters, Commander Thompson stood in his office, watching workers repair the last of the damage from the battle. His desk screen displayed reports from across the globe. Every nation was now fully committed to expanding Project Helios. Latest intelligence report, sir, his assistant said, placing a tablet on his desk. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected significant changes in alien activity. No hostile ships have entered our solar system since the battle. Thompson nodded, picking up the tablet. The news from across the galaxy had been interesting. Their solar defense system had become something of a legend among spacefaring races. Some called it impossible. Others called it brilliant. But all agreed on one thing. Earth was not to be underestimated. In the Nevada facility, Dr. Roberts led a team of international scientists through the improved control center. Representatives from every major nation had gathered to learn about the technology that had saved their world. The basic principle remains simple, she explained, showing them the upgraded systems. We don't create the energy. We simply redirect it. The sun provides more power in a second than we could generate in a century. Nature itself became our greatest weapon. The facility had been expanded, with new monitoring stations and improved control systems. On the main screen, a real-time display showed the positions of Earth's greatly enhanced satellite network. What had once been hidden was now proudly displayed. A planetary defense system unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. At the United Nations, a new council chamber was under construction. Earth had received its first diplomatic message from the Galactic Council since the battle. The tone was markedly different from their previous communications. In light of recent developments, the message had read, Earth's classification has been upgraded to a Level 1 civilization with unique defensive capabilities. We request to open diplomatic relations on equal terms. Ambassador Gray had been replaced. The new alien representative, Ambassador Stone, showed none of his predecessor's condescension. In fact, several alien races had already approached Earth about trading technology, particularly in the field of solar energy manipulation. On the International Space Station, Commander Wood supervised the installation of upgraded focusing arrays. The station's true purpose was no longer a secret, but its capabilities had been significantly enhanced. To think, she said to her crew as they worked, they thought we were primitive because we still used solar power. They never considered that sometimes the old ways can be the most powerful. Back in his office, Commander Thompson received an unexpected visitor. Dr. Roberts arrived with new simulation results, but also with a thoughtful expression on her face. Something on your mind, Doctor? He asked. She nodded, setting down her tablet. I've been thinking about what we learned from all this. The aliens had faster-than-light travel, energy shields, weapons we could barely comprehend. But they lost because they forgot something fundamental. What's that? That innovation isn't just about creating new technology. Sometimes it's about looking at what you already have in a new way. She smiled. They thought they were masters of the stars because they could travel between them. We showed them what it means to truly harness a star's power. Thompson walked to the window, looking up at the sun setting over the horizon. Earth had changed, but perhaps for the better. They had proven themselves on a galactic stage, not through overwhelming technology, but through human ingenuity and determination. What do you think they'll remember about us? He asked. Dr. Roberts joined him at the window. They'll remember that humanity taught the galaxy a valuable lesson. Never judge a species by their apparent level of technology. Judge them by their ability to use what they have. As the sun set on a changed Earth, humanity looked to the future with new confidence. They had taken their first steps into a larger galaxy, not as primitives to be conquered, but as equals to be respected. And if anyone ever again doubted their capabilities, they needed only to look up at the sun to remember why that would be a serious mistake.